Welcome everybody, my name is Michael or Kubera. Today we're discussing whether Bitcoin is a bubble. It's a timeless question, but before we get into that, with regards to yesterday's update, I appreciate every single one of you who subscribed to my new channel. If you haven't done that yet, check out that video. It'll be linked down in the description below, and also the new channel will be. That's going to be my new main channel. So far we've hit past 250, steadfast going on to 300 subscribers. I'll still be posting on Kubera once per week, but on there, if you want to see my face daily, we will have daily post, and we've been doing a great job of that so far. So without further ado, let's go into it. Let's roll the intro. Is Bitcoin in a bubble, and will it pop? So last week, Bank of America's security chief investment strategist Michael Hartnett said that Bitcoin was looking like the mother of all bubbles. Oh yes, there's been hundreds of news articles over the past month that have been calling Bitcoin a bubble. And if not Bitcoin, then cryptocurrency a bubble. And this happens every single year. Every single year, Bitcoin is dead. There is even a website dedicated to journalists and large websites calling Bitcoin's end, saying that it's dead. And then Bitcoin rises and has a rally, and every single time there's a new bottom, and before you know it, there's more and more crypto millionaires out there. So what's one of the main features of a financial bubble? Which, by the way, Bitcoin is not in a bubble. It can't, technically, it looks like a bubble, and that's why you could say it's in a bubble, and then it pops again and goes into a bear market cycle, and then it goes into a bull run, a rally, another bull market cycle. It's cyclical. It happens every year or 2 years or 3 years or however often this happens. Usually though, by every fourth year, there's going to be a Bitcoin halving, and every single time this has happened in the past, Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin is also a hedge against inflation. It's inflation proof, while the US dollar will devalue every single year. And now with this new $1.9 trillion stimulus and the few $1 trillion stimulus from last year, there's going to be higher taxes. These consequences, well, they're not going away. There's going to be higher inflation, if not now, maybe next year, if not next year, a few years from now. There was 40 million people unemployed last year. There's still millions and millions of people who will not be in a healthy financial situation for probably the next few years, maybe even a decade, because they were affected so hard from last year. And it's still not over. I mean, there's still plenty of areas around the world that are in full lockdown. So a lot of investors look at the speed, the rate that Bitcoin's price is rising during these bull run rallies, and they compare it to stocks, and they're like, oh yeah, stocks are so much better. Usually stocks are very, very stable, except they're not, because Tesla beat Bitcoin last year, and Tesla wasn't the only one. It wasn't the highest winner. You had the vaccination stocks such as Moderna. Pfizer went up. There was a bunch of stocks. Every single company basically that was working on a vaccination, they were successful. Their stock went up. Tesla was 600, 700%. Moderna was over 700%, approaching 800% raise. That's a huge ROI in just a single year, while Bitcoin was around 200 to 300%. And of course, this was affected all because of March's drop, this black swan event where suddenly Bitcoin went from 8,000 to 4,000. But even Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, he was wrong. All the airline stocks, the cruise line stocks, every single business was affected that month. You had some businesses just go simply bankrupt. So the fact that Bitcoin lost half of its value, that's normal for cryptocurrency. And there was a huge event that influenced that. And it recovered very quickly back to 8,000 and then 10,000. And then we had a rally. So every single time this word is misused, you have two camps. You have the believers, and then you have the non-believers who are saying, all right, this is the year that Bitcoin's ending. This is the year that everyone's going to lose their money. This is very similar to the tulip bubble. Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. What if the internet goes out? Then Bitcoin's lost. Well, if the internet goes out, first of all, your bank account is lost as well. Everything's connected to the internet nowadays. You think the bank has 100% of your money? You go into a bank, you do a run on the bank. All of your neighborhood suddenly goes to the bank. You think they have 100% of your money? No, they do not. And thanks to the government and the lockdowns of last year, the previous rates were at 10%. They only had to have 10% of your money. Then they dropped it to 0%. So it's all just written down online in these databases. They have billions of dollars just floating around in the ether space. And banks on top of this are also creating their own stable coins. They are using blockchains. So if banks are getting on board, if giant multi-billion-dollar investment firms are investing hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions into cryptocurrency, and people are still calling it a bubble, it just kind of makes you seem like, ignorant at this point. I hate to say it, but very ignorant. Because even the largest hypocrites, such as CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, who called Bitcoin a scam and a bubble many, many times, well, his company is creating a stable coin and they're investing in cryptocurrency. This has all been just old news. Investment management firm Man Group said every time a Bitcoin bubble bursts, another grows back to replace it. This very frequency makes the Bitcoin narrative somewhat atypical relative to the great bubbles of the past. So it's less irritating because technically it's still being misused, but at least they said it's atypical, right? What Bitcoin's doing. But they still believe that Bitcoin is a bubble. It just gets popped and then renews itself every bull market cycle. But that is not the case. So words matter. When you go to Investopedia, during a bubble, assets typically trade at a price or within a price range that greatly exceeds the asset's intrinsic value. The price does not align with the fundamentals of the asset. On NASDAQ, a market phenomenon characterized by surges in asset prices to levels significantly above the fundamental value of that asset. And on Wikipedia, a situation in which asset prices appear to be based on implausible or inconsistent views about the future. It could also be described as an asset that trades at a price or price range that strongly exceeds the asset's intrinsic value. So do you see the common thread? An asset is in a bubble when its price increase is not related at all to its intrinsic value. The fundamental value, it doesn't matter. It's just going up because, woo, YOLO, Wall Street bets. So what is Bitcoin's intrinsic value? What is cryptocurrency's intrinsic value? Nobody really knows yet. It's a new technology. It's evolving. It's just like the internet. When it first came out, people were very scared about it. And then boom, see ya. You can't imagine a life right now without your phone, without a smartphone, first of all. I was just talking about this with my girlfriend today, how I used to have like a flip phone and I was like 9 years old and I was super happy about that. And now the kids, my little cousin, he's like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, he's already playing video games and he's got his own smartphone and tablet. It's just, whoa. Schools basically force you to use the internet. I mean, it's all over. It dominated our life, and there's no way to live without it. So Bitcoin's technology use case is still kind of unclear for certain aspects of how it's going to look into the future. We're not sure exactly where it fits in the financial ecosystem because governments are still trying to figure out how can they regulate this? What is it exactly? Is it an asset? Is it a security? Is it something else? And whether Bitcoin's unique investment characteristics and its unfamiliar metrics make it impossible to basically regulate using the old traditional methods. Many have a lot of opinions about its fundamental values, but you only need to look really deep into what they're discussing and realize that some of these people have no idea what they're talking about. If you're an expert in stocks, that's great. You're able to apply some of that knowledge for cryptocurrency trading, but as we've seen time and time again, the same rules from stocks trading or Forex don't apply at all to cryptocurrency. Some of these rules, they might work some of the time, but as we've seen with just these price differences and crazy profits, the Wild West days are basically over. That was before 2017. We're coming into a new stabler era, but because there's more institutional investors this time, there's more people getting on board, there's more money flowing in, governments are actually recognizing at this time, the price is naturally growing. So anyone saying that Bitcoin is in a bubble is not making a judgment call based on its intrinsic value. There's an entire ecosystem, there's an entire community behind it. There's a lot of use cases. For example, you use Ethereum, there's a lot of decentralized apps, there's a lot of really cool decentralized social media platforms, how companies are using a ledger to make sure that the data is secure. There are certain coins that really go for security and privacy and trying to make your data anonymous, and that's really cool. There's stable coins, there's security token offerings, there was ICOs, there's DeFi now, and every single year there's more and more coming out because it's still an evolving technology. So now we have to look at the social aspect of calling Bitcoin a bubble. So a lot of people think that because your grandma knows about Bitcoin and everybody knows about Bitcoin and the media's talking about it constantly, there's more word on YouTube, on Facebook, there's more articles. I mean, I just went onto the Daily Mail. I'm going to show you. Beyond Bitcoin, number 2 crypto Ethereum is climbing faster. It gave rise to the DeFi industry that's netted some investors up to 11,000% this year. That was a few days ago. Also, here we are. Bitcoin bubble. Can you bank on the cryptocurrency? Five crucial questions answered before you dive in. Keyword bubble. Even though there is a lot of Bitcoin maximalists and people who are super passionate about cryptocurrency, even on YouTube you can see this. There's channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers that they're growing now larger than ever before, but compare that to other channels on YouTube that have millions of subscribers where that is becoming quickly the new norm, since now you have hundreds and hundreds of channels that are over 10 million, over 50 million subscribers even. You have TikTok accounts that suddenly, bam, grew over 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. You have people who have over 105 million subscribers, both on YouTube and on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, new social media platforms. Suddenly you have these giant accounts. So a few 100,000 followers, and those are the largest accounts on the platform. And the large majority of accounts are between 50,000 to 100,000, or actually even below 50,000 subscribers, such as mine. It's far from mainstream. It's still growing, and there's still areas around the world that are just warming up to cryptocurrency now. And there's still a lot of investors that are saying, you know what, I was wrong. I'm going to play a safe bet. I'm going to allocate 1 to 2% of my assets into cryptocurrency. It's going to be a hedge against inflation. We'll see how it goes. Most professional investors are not suddenly dumping all their money into YOLO crypto. They're doing so to hedge against the scenario of currency debasement. So if suddenly the dollar gets debased 50 years from now and Social Security is bust and all of this, they're doing it just in case. They used to throw a lot of money into gold because they were paranoid. Hey, we're not really sure. What if war breaks out? What if this country suddenly just stops existing? That was like 100 years ago, right? Well, now the tide is changing. Now basically Bitcoin is digital gold. For Bitcoin to suddenly pop, and yes, we've seen hundreds of billions of dollars lost every single time we go into another bear market cycle, but there's also a new low. It's basically impossible for right now, we have over $1 trillion. It's basically impossible for this full $1 trillion to just disappear. Even in the last bear market, there still were days where tens of billions of dollars were flowing through Bitcoin every single day. Tens of billions of dollars, 24-hour volume. And still the entire market cap for all cryptocurrencies was over $100 billion, maybe over $200 billion at certain aspects of 2019. And then you look at the whale accounts, some of these guys are holding over billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency, and they're only growing. They're not selling anything. Some people would argue that Bitcoin is an anti-bubble. Its price is going up because of bubbles elsewhere in the economy. Many investors are buying Bitcoin in response to what they see as a massive sovereign bond bubble, which they believe the government will try to deflate by printing money. Money printer go brrr. And as for equities, the blistering market valuations of tech companies are to a large degree dependent on low interest rates, which could head up fast should the bond bubble burst. This would make alternatives such as Bitcoin even more attractive. To get a feel for Bitcoin's anti-bubble nature, try to imagine what its fundamental value would be if we had central banks that did not print money, governments that capped balanced accounts, and no fear at all of MMT, financial repression, or any kind of populist uprisings. In this scenario, the price and demand of Bitcoin would be much lower. But that's not what is actually going on. There's certain countries around this world that have hyperinflation right now. There's uprisings. There's still war. Just because most of the audience lives in America, you're living in a bubble yourself. And not a financial bubble, but you're just living with these blinders on. You have no idea what's going on around the world. While most people might be investing into Bitcoin in America, there's certain areas of this world where people just want to have some money. They don't want to lose it all to hyperinflation, and they're throwing anything they can into cryptocurrency. Because even with Bitcoin's crazy and stable periods, it's still 10 times more stable than what's going on in their own local economy. If Bitcoin was in a bubble, truly, wouldn't it have died many years ago? If Bitcoin was in a bubble, would grayscale investments, would MicroStrategy, would Guggenheim, would multi-billionaires be investing into this? No, and they wouldn't be investing at the rates that they are. If they didn't trust it, MicroStrategy wouldn't be buying hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. They'd be investing $10 million or $20 million just to test the water, see how it's going. Every single time someone says it's a bubble, but then doesn't realize that there are actual bubbles such as the housing bubble, bonds bubbles, even Rolex bubbles. Rolexes are growing in price like crazy. There's a lot of things around you that you don't even understand. A lot of billionaire toys. You see these latest Ferraris that are selling for over $50 million, approaching $100 million. Or recently on Bring a Trailer or other websites where you're seeing classic Ford Broncos or Toyota Cruisers or whatever, normal cars. Some of these are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Recently there was a Toyota that sold for almost $1 million. There's bubbles everywhere you look. It just really depends on what a bubble is, what that means. There's always value found whenever another person wants to pay that price. But we're at a point in cryptocurrency where even if we fell into another bear market, suddenly these companies aren't just going to go bankrupt like that. The ones that are copycat clones, sure, but that's in every single industry. So that is today's video. Bitcoin's currently approaching $37,000. We're over $1 trillion market cap. If you haven't subscribed to my new channel, check it out. And that is that. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. We have a few more days before the channel will change ownership, so don't worry, we'll be doing a live stream most likely tomorrow. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye. Interesting update on the library. Let's go into it. We have 14 LBC and 88.5 ready to claim. That means we have over 100. Now, if we go to CoinMarketCap, we can see that the latest price is 12 cents. However, actually just 24 hours ago, or actually even less than that, it hit 16.3 cents, which is the second pump actually to 16 cents. Except this one was a little bit larger, just a tiny bit better. So let's go sell our LBC. That's going to give us, woohoo, 12 bucks. Now, this could be due to the fact that LBRY's been mentioned on a lot of forums recently, as did Gab and Parler. Parler came back after it was banned from Amazon's web services, and a lot of people are looking for what can replace YouTube. Maybe LBRY's not the full answer, but it exists right now. It works. It may not be perfect, but that's why people are getting into it. There's another website called Rumble, but I'm not a big fan. Also, people who are redirecting to BitChute. I am not a fan of BitChute. It is 10 times more glitchier than LBRY. Maybe it's going to get fixed in the future. But for right now, we just don't have a good, viable YouTube substitute. I'm happy with LBRY because I get free money every single month. But it also reminds me of Steemit, and Steemit is just not where I thought it would be. I used to be a big user of Steemit. My mind changed on that. A lot of people left the platform. Some people invested hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars into Steem. We all thought it had a lot of potential, and as you go back to some of my earlier videos on this channel, and if you remember from my previous channel, we discussed about Steemit a fair amount. Unfortunately, what happened, and now only Hive is the viable option, which was created by people, loyal followers of Steemit, and LBRY. So LBRY's been around for a few years, not really sure where it's heading, but it's good to see that there's more traction as of late. There we go. We have posted 102.6 LBC for sale. I'm really excited, around $12, just a little bit over. And there we go. It is gone. It has officially been sold. Woohoo! We've got some Bitcoin now.